Issues out of black and white. Let's concentrate on right and wrong.
And now, our voices today.
Why are we led by our pride?
Welcome to our voices today, right here on Burton Belcar Community Radio with your beloved unicorn of the land, DJ Black Unicorn, aka Uni. Happy Thursday, happy Friday, Junior. The weekend is almost here. Right now, it is 10 a.m. It is June 20th. I hope your Juneteenth was smooth and chill and, you had a good time. I hope you spent it with family, was able to center, maybe barbecued if it wasn't too hot for you out there. If you were outside, I hope you were drinking your clean water, eating your live foods because that hydrates you as well. Right now it is 81 degrees with a high of 88. Again, those cooling stations, because it's not winter right now. Those cooling stations are all around the city. So if you need to utilize them, please do so. And you already know what today brings. It is the third Thursday of the month, so Legal Aid is live in the studio with us to discuss all about economic justice. And for those of you out there who may have heard that phrase and was like, what is she talking about? Economic justice, is that even a thing? Hey, we're trying to make it a thing. Economic justice is the idea that economy will be successful if it is more fair. We will get into all that in a little bit, but let's properly introduce today's guest from Legal Aid, who is the senior attorney, Miss Barbara Barreno-Paschall. Did I say it right? Ish. A little bit. No, I didn't go. I butchered it. I knew I was going to. But I will call you Miss Barb, and I will allow you to properly say your name because I forgot that quick. What I see is I had a Pascual in my class, and so when I see that, that's honestly what I think about. You can talk.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Hello, Miss Barbara. How do you say your last names?
Barreno-Paschall.
Barreno-Paschall. Hello, Miss Barbara Barreno-Paschall. How are you?
Doing great. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's so awesome to have you. Thank you. So, Miss Barb serves as a senior attorney in the Economic Justice Practice Group at the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. And prior to her tenure at Legal Aid, Barbara was vice chair and commissioner of the state of Illinois' Human Rights Commission, appointed by Governor J.B. in 2019 and reappointed in 2023. Barbara also was an associate at Sidley Austin LLP and a senior staff attorney at Chicago Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. Ms. Barbara serves as vice president at Harvard Alumni for Global Women's Empowerment and as an elected director of the Harvard Alumni Association. She is a team member of the Council of on Foreign Relations and a recipient of a German Marshall Fund Fellowship 2023. Barbara attained her law degree, from Vanderbilt University Law School, where she was executive editor. Oh, okay. of the Vanderbilt Law Review and chair. So you got a little media background. I like that. Review and chair of the National Latino Law Student Association. She also attained her bachelor's degree from Harvard College and her master of public policy degree from University of Chicago Harris School of Public Policy. And again, we are here to discuss all about economic justice. So let's just hop straight into it. What is the Economic Justice Practice Group at Legal Aid Society?
Well, thanks again for having me this morning. At Legal Aid, the Economic Justice Practice Group provides advice and direct legal representation for clients who need legal assistance related to money in issues like employment, consumer law, tax, bankruptcy, and estate planning. And Legal Aid also advocates for systemic change that will result in greater economic stability for our client community.
Thank you. So can you please describe for us each area of law that is included in economic justice?
There are 5 legal areas in the Economic Justice Group at Cleveland Legal Aid, starting with consumer. And the consumer team, we assist with consumer debt issues such as debt collection, car repossessions, student loans, payday loans, and auto title loans, as well as medical or nursing home collection. In addition, we also represent homeowners in foreclosure cases. So that's consumer. Next is bankruptcy, where our economic justice group assists individuals with filing their Chapter 7 bankruptcies. The next item is tax, where we help clients with disputes that they might have with the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, about their personal federal income tax returns. Fourth is our work team, which is our employment law team, and we assist clients with removing barriers to employment, such as sealing criminal records, sealing and expunging juvenile records, and also filing applications for a CQE, a certification of qualification for employment in Ohio, as well as representing clients in employment discrimination cases and unemployment compensation cases. Finally, our fifth area is wealth building, where we assist clients with their estate planning needs and also help them clear up tangled property titles. So there are 5 issues: consumer, bankruptcy, tax, work, and wealth building.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
So in what areas of economic justice do you have the largest caseload, I would say?
Historically, we've gotten a lot of requests for bankruptcy assistance. We did see a drop-off during the pandemic, and that was when debt collection was paused, but our bankruptcy numbers have recently been increasing. We've seen an increase over the last year, and we'll continue to see an increase.
Oh, wow. So why do you think that is exactly?
That has to do a lot with changes in the economy and also just the issue that people who have low income might find themselves in financial situations where they've accumulated debts that they really want to repay, but they just can't pay them all off. And it's really difficult to handle that. And the debts snowball, and then they find themselves in a situation where they need to call us and get some assistance.
Wow. It's definitely hard out here.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard out here. But why do you think it kind of eased up a little bit during COVID, and then, COVID's not really over, but when it was kind of over, it went right back up, and it is keep going up at this point?
There was a moratorium on evictions, for example. There was a pause in debt collection efforts because states realized that some people weren't able to work, and they needed to find ways to just keep afloat. There were some rent assistance programs. A lot of those programs have sunsetted. They've ended. And so now people are finding themselves with increasing costs, and the bills keep coming. The bills don't stop.
Correct.
And so it's really important for people to contact us if they find themselves in a situation, or if they get a court paper or some kind of filing against them. They should definitely call us to see if we can help them.
Which is so true, because example would be the connectivity program, where you can receive half off of your Wi-Fi bill, and that is coming to a close, and a lot of people are like, what am I going to do?
Exactly.
But we kind of all knew eventually it will end.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? So if you are receiving assistance, you also have to keep into account that this will end one day, and I need to prepare for that. There's just a little...
Exactly. And one of the challenges, too, is saving. And so with wages not keeping up with inflation, and they're not keeping up with all the costs that have increased, it's really hard for people to save, so that when those situations happen, then they're stuck. And then these debts start to snowball, and then they find themselves in a difficult situation.
So we talked a little bit about how these situations and just the economy in general affect these cases, but can we go into a little bit of more detail about it?
Well, in terms of increasing prices, that's something that is often out of many people's control because their work employs them. They tell them how much they're getting paid. They may not get the raise that they're hoping for, or they're not getting it when they hope they're going to get it. Inflation and gas prices and rent increases, or other property taxes increase, other expenses are they're all going up. And when that happens and their wages aren't going up, or they lose their job or something happens, I've heard of clients getting their hours cut, and it's really stressful because some of them are not able to save, and they're barely making it paycheck to paycheck, and then this happens, and then it becomes a really difficult situation that they can't keep up with all the debts.
Yes. Inflation! Yeah. I say it like that because we hate it. Inflation is happening. Everything is going up, but the actual pay rates aren't.
Right.
And that's an issue. It is a huge issue, but that's a conversation for another day. What is foreclosure exactly?
Foreclosure, and going back to our work with the consumer team, I mentioned the 5 areas where we provide assistance. Foreclosure happens when a lien holder, someone who has the debt, so a person borrows for a mortgage and then they are they're paying to a lender. That person files a lawsuit against a homeowner who can't make the payments, or they get behind on the payments. After a few months, they'll start that process. And if a court enters a foreclosure judgment against that person, the lien holder can get the property sold to get back the money that they lent the borrower.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned lien. For those of you out there, I'm going to find out for you right now. What exactly is a lien, and the difference between a lien and a deed and all these words that comes with owning a home?
Right. And so for example, if you have a mortgage, people will call it a mortgage note. And then once you make that agreement to borrow the property, then that entity, the lender, the bank, has what's called a lien, a hold on the property, right? And so if something happens and fall behind on those payments, because there's supposed to be a payment plan where you have a fixed mortgage. It could be variable, but often it's fixed for 30 years, 30-year fixed, we hear all the time, at a certain interest rate. If things happen, you fall back on the payments, that lien holder, that person who owns that right to reclaim the property. And it's mostly about the money, just making sure they recoup the money that they lent to the borrower. And it's important to think about it in terms of, you have this note, a mortgage, whatever you want to call it. There are terms to it. It's a contract. And if you do not fulfill your end of the bargain, they have the right to come and take it.
So not to go too far left, but once you pay off the home, right, and it is completely yours, there is no more lien, no more oversight that you have to pay for the home, you still have to pay those state taxes, right?
That's correct. Their property taxes are owed to the county, and that's one of the types of foreclosure cases that we see. One of them is mortgage foreclosures. We're just talking about the debt people owe when they try to pay for the mortgage or repay it. The other is with property taxes, where if they find that they can't keep up with the property taxes, which can often increase, then they'll have to face a possible situation where someone will file a case, the county will file a case to recoup that money.
And legal aid is here to help with that, because it's under one of those 5 legal areas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We help with foreclosure cases. We just need to see that someone has a complaint that's been filed in court.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us those 2 differences between foreclosures and liens and taxes and da-da-da-da-da. Are there payment plans available for each form of foreclosure?
Yes, there are payment plans available in certain circumstances. For example, if someone's behind, say you owe the mortgage and the bank is calling, you can contact the bank and also a housing counseling agency to see if maybe you can get your loan modified. And that could involve a few different steps, but it could help make the payments lower, for example, so that you can repay that or pay it on time. And then for the property tax cases, you can contact the county treasurer's office to say, hey, this is pretty tough. I'm having some hard times. I need some help. Can you help me enter a payment plan to pay it? Eventually, all of it has to be repaid, but there could be ways to lower the payments to make it easier to pay it back, because property taxes are charged twice a year, the full amount. And that could be really stressful for people to have to repay that entire amount.
Do they have the option to pay monthly like a bill? Or if they chose to do that, will that be something that they choose to do like via their savings? Like, okay, I'm putting this much away for my property tax.
It would depend on the counties, but I imagine that there are ways to do it to pay at different points in time rather than just the one payment for every 6 months. So it's something it depends on the counties, but they can just call and see if there's a way to get that modified. So it could be monthly or quarterly or just some other, not the entire 6 months.
Thank you so much for all this awesome information when it comes to economic justice. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back talking to Miss Barbara all about some justice in the economics ways. And when we come back, I want to know a little bit more about housing counseling. You mentioned, and we'll talk about that right after this break. Don't go anywhere. Our voices today right here on Burton Belcar Community Radio. Stand up, my people. Stand for something in your Last year, the Cleveland Public Library launched Cleveland Reads to increase literacy rates citywide and foster a love for reading. The results were overwhelmingly positive.
Over 28,000 readers participated. Over 10 million minutes were spent reading. More than 1.6 million books were read. Nearly 400,000 new free books were distributed. 116 outreach events were hosted and attended by nearly 80,000 people. The Cleveland Public Library received 419 completed surveys, with 96% of people saying they learned something new from what they read or experienced, 90% saying they read more often, 91% saying they enjoy reading more, and 92% saying they want to use the library more often.
Wow.
As you can imagine, Cleveland Public Library provided Cleveland families with high-quality reading literacy strategies and resources to create a joy of reading. Looking ahead, Cleveland Public Library will work to build basic digital literacy skills for audiences of all ages. It will launch a new teen innovation and workforce development lab, programming on science, technology, engineering, and math, and a new senior digital literacy program for older audiences.
Visit cpl.org to learn about Cleveland Reads and how you and your kids can get involved with reading at Cleveland Public Library.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to the Cleveland Public Library for the success of Cleveland Reads as the program continues to grow going into this year.
It's time to make the short story longer. Yeah. Stand up, my people. Stand for something in your life. Stand up, my people.
Welcome back to Our Voices Today, right here on Burton Belcar Community Radio 95.9 FM. This is, again, Our Voices Today with Yudi. And if you are just tuning in, I'm having a great conversation with Miss Barbara of Legal Aid Society Cleveland. We're talking all things economic justice. They are helping out in 5 amazing areas: consumer, bankruptcy, tax, and the work team, and as well as wealth. And one of those sectors, because guys, look, you have options. And if you don't know these options are out here, now you do, because you're listening to Our Voices Today. You're staying tuned with WOVU. We are providing you all types of different resources and informations to help better your situations, your lives. If you know someone that needs help or just needs the information, share it with them. Share the information, because people simply do not know. And you don't know, like, if you don't know, you won't know what questions to ask, right? So keep tuning in, and guys, keep listening, because this is what we are here for, literally. Burton Belcar Community Radio. This is community information that is superbly beneficial. So let's hop right back into it. Housing counseling. How can people find out about housing counseling and counselors? I never heard of that phrase.
The best way to do that is to go on HUD's website. So HUD is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, or Google or the internet, right? But HUD has an approved list of what they call HUD-sponsored counseling agencies. So these are agencies that receive federal funding, our tax dollars at work, and they provide free or low-cost advice to people who are having some challenges with their mortgage or their rent situation or just housing in general, mainly for mortgages, right? First-time home buyers, for example, and existing or current homeowners who might need some assistance like we were talking about earlier. So definitely great resource in Cleveland to talk to a housing counselor. HUD has on their website, hud.gov/counseling, they have resources where you can enter your zip code or city, and you can get a list of all these different agencies who can help.
Thank you. And Legal Aid, of course, is here to help. They have some upcoming brief advice clinics coming up. We're going to talk about that before we leave out of here. But can we discuss first the process for
foreclosures.
Oh, it is disclosure because you're going to give a lot of information. But yeah, the foreclosure process starts when that lien holder, right, that bank, that lender, or for property tax cases, the county, will initiate or start a complaint with the court, and the person who owes that debt, that mortgage debt or property tax debt, they need to file what's called an answer. They need to respond to that complaint, and with that answer, a person can submit defenses they have to the complaint, such as maybe they didn't get the notices that their mortgage was coming due or that they were going to file this action, or something else that would explain why they weren't able to pay. If an answer is not filed, that response to the complaint, the court may enter what's called a default judgment in the case, and the property will just go straight to a judicial sale, a court-ordered sale of the property. But if the person does file an answer, they could also seek time to put the case on hold and get that mortgage modification we were talking about, or a payment plan, or even sell the home. If they don't think that they can find a way to repay the debt, they can have it sold. And that can end the case. So there are, like you said earlier, there are options, and there are a few options here.
Wow. So it sounds like long as they keep an open line of communication, once they are aware that they are in this predicament, that they have a chance and they have some choices and decisions to make, basically.
Absolutely. It's not the end when a case is filed. Definitely not.
Wow. So if they respond with an answer, how much time exactly is given to them if they request more time to make payments?
It depends on the situation, because the purpose of the foreclosure action is for that lien holder, that lender, that bank to get their money back. But if there is communication about how much time it might take to repay, it could be a few months, it could be a few weeks. It just depends on the parties. They have to get together and talk about it, especially if someone, say, goes to that housing counseling agency to get that loan modification. It might take a few weeks or even months to get that going. But as long as that bank, that lender knows that the money is coming, there can be some flexibility. The challenge is when someone doesn't respond to that complaint, there's no action, or they don't receive it. Sometimes they don't even get it because maybe they're living somewhere else, but they own that property, for example, and they may not get it at that address. So there's a lot of things that have to happen in these cases, and sometimes it can take weeks or months or years, hopefully not years too much if they're having that dialogue and communication. There was another point I forgot to mention, that someone can file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy to stop the foreclosure, because that allows the person to enter what's called a wage earners plan, a payment plan that can last for between 3 and 5 years to pay back some of the debt. That Chapter 13, that's not something legal aid does, but there are many attorneys out in the area who could do that, the Chapter 13 bankruptcy.
Thank you. And if, for example, the homeowner decides, you know what, I'm just going to sell, and they sell the home, do they see any of that money back?
It depends on how much was owed, what the value of the home is worth versus what was on their mortgage. So if they sell the home and the proceeds exceed what was owed, there is a good chance they will get that money back. However, if they do not recoup all the money, they owe that deficiency balance, that the difference, and then they might have to file a bankruptcy.
Either way. Okay.
But that doesn't have to happen. That could be a sale, and then they'll recoup all the debt and even get something back.
So you have options. Whatever works best for you is possible, and just you got to communicate. That's I can't stress that enough, because if you go mute, if you go silent, whether it's because you're depressed and anxious, you got situations maybe you simply didn't know and you found out, communicate. You have to communicate with these entities, because if you do, that will give you time, that will give you some adjustment or whatever. But if you don't, they're going to do whatever they want to do. And they're going to take it.
And they can seek help from legal aid. If they see a complaint come through and they don't understand it, call us. We can take a look at it.
Thank you. So we're going to shift gears just a tad, to one of those other 5 legal areas that legal aid helps with, which would include something of the nature with work team, correct?
That's right. Our work team and our employment issues.
Yeah. So in retrospect of employment law, what exactly do legal aid help address in this sector?
Our work team handles a range of legal issues related to work, from employment discrimination, where someone thinks they're being treated differently at work because of who they are, to unemployment benefits cases, wage theft cases, and sealing and expungement of criminal records, or filing a certification of qualification for employment, or CQE.
Thank you. Do you see that occur often with different convicts coming out and they're like just having trouble getting employment?
There have been changes to the expungement and sealing laws recently, which have expanded the categories that people can access for expungement and sealing. However, there are some criminal offenses that are not covered under those expungement and sealing laws, and that's where the certification of qualification for employment can help someone with a criminal record by removing some automatic or mandatory restrictions they might have on certain types of jobs or licenses they can have professionally.
So within the employment sector, what type of cases do you receive often? What type of cases do you see very concentrated in this sector?
With the employment discrimination, we see a steady stream of requests from race discrimination cases to disability discrimination and retaliation, where an employer might take action against someone because they complained about discrimination. And since the pandemic in 2020, we've seen a lot of requests for help from people who've been denied unemployment benefits and need help with figuring out how to get unemployment, how they qualify, but how do they get it? And so that's something else that we've seen a lot of requests come through in the last 4 years.
Because they will, I'm a firm believer a lot of these government officers will just simply deny just because. Like the first time, and you got to keep going back, or it's like this one little line, you missed the signature. And it's, if you're unfamiliar with that type of legal documentation, it can be so confusing.
Yes, and that's why we're here to help.
Yes.
We see a lot of cases where people have not submitted the proper documentation because they didn't know that they needed to submit 7 forms of ID, for example, or they find that they have to submit weekly claims and job search activities, and there are 2 different sites for that. It's a very complex system. We're here to help with the legal piece of that, and there are other resources available in the community for people to get help with that as well.
And again, we have some upcoming brief advice clinics coming up for the end of June and July. We will be talking all about those upcoming clinics. And of course, you can always visit LAS, the website, for more information and to find all of those clinics coming up. But don't go away. Make sure you stick and stay. We will be right back talking more about economic fairness and justice here in Cleveland and the help that you can receive from Legal Aid Society. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. WOVU.
Stand for something in your life. Stand up, my people.
Shaker Square will soon undergo changes for a better future, but your input is needed. The Shaker Square Vision Plan will be a 12-month process that will build on insights from the 2019 planning study, focusing on concepts that already resonate with the community. The new study will investigate marketplace strategies and public realm designs that support surrounding businesses and position Shaker Square as a regional destination and local hub. You can get involved. Take the survey online at this website, shakersquare.com/vision-plan. That again is shakersquare.com/vision-plan, where you can find information on meetings and events. Get involved in the Shaker Square Vision Plan, a 12-month study that needs your input for a better future. This message is brought to you by Cleveland Neighborhood Progress and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
June is National Black Family Cancer Awareness Month. Did you know that black women are 41% more likely to die from breast cancer than white women? This statistic is even more striking because fewer black women are diagnosed with breast cancer than white women. Black men are at double the risk of their white counterparts for multiple myeloma cancer, but also develop it about 5 to 10 years earlier. The Cleveland Office of Minority Health is your education resource partner. Learn more about the types of cancer affecting the black community. Visit us at clevelandhealth.org, funded by the Ohio Commission on Minority Health.
Stand up, my people. Stand for something in your life. Stand up, my people.
Welcome back to Our Voices Today, WOVU 95.9 FM, with your beloved unicorn of the land, DJ Black Unicorn, having a great conversation with Miss Barbara of the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. We've been discussing all about economic justice, what that looks like, and how legal aid is helping each and every person that walks through the door out with that process, as long as it is a civil issue. And if it's something they can't help you out with, they can definitely direct you to the right place. So don't fret, don't worry. If you need a little help or advice, you can definitely be sure to visit one of these upcoming clinics, which we will be talking about. You just gotta stick and stay. But before we get that, can we talk about what you have noticed regarding discrimination cases and the ones that are coming into legal aid? What is happening with them exactly?
In a lot of cases, people might have lost a job or they got fired, and they think that job loss was because of what's known as a protected category, a protected basis, such as their race or their national origin, their gender. They might have a disability or have a certain religion or sexual orientation. These are some examples of things that people are different, and they may believe that something happened and it was because of one of those categories. Another example is if someone leaves their job because of a hostile work environment, you've heard a lot about toxic work environments, but there are environments that involve sexual harassment and other types of protected category-based harassment, like race-based harassment. And if they complained about it and either faced retaliation or nothing was done, then they may feel they have no choice but to leave. But then what do they do next? But they think something happened, so they call us.
You know, well, you said the religion portion of discrimination. It's been some talks about a lot of the classes and things that are going on with the Church of Satan, right? And so as soon as you said that, I thought about that, and I was like, honestly, would I want to work with someone who's a part of that church? But if you're an employee, an employer, you don't have the luxury to think like that, right?
Right. The goal of these anti-discrimination laws is to protect people so that they can be free to be who they are at work. And if someone is at work and thinks that there's some harassment going on because of their own religion or their own category, that is something they can definitely take action on. Unfortunately, in the workplace, there are situations where people may not like what someone's saying, and it may not be appropriate, but it might not be illegal. So the key is to take note of it, and if something's really disturbing or something's going on, they can go to HR or their manager, or if they need to, can contact an agency or an attorney like Legal Aid, or an agency like the U.S. EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the Ohio Civil Rights Commission, to say, hey, something's going on here, and I'm not sure what this is, or it just doesn't seem right. But for the most part, unfortunately, in the workplace, things happen, and we just have to get through it.
Yeah. So, okay, one last question in that sector, because we just have to work through it. And, you know, people are different. You have to respect each and every walk of life, whether you agree with it or not. But are there ways employers can legally protect themselves as well in this retrospect? And if so, what does that look like? Because we have a lot of grassroots organizations. We have a lot of grassroots companies, grassroots
small, just starting startups, right? That may not have like these big HR like sectors of their companies, but they are effective. How are they protecting themselves when they don't have those type of entities within their companies and organizations?
The best way for an employer to protect itself is to learn what's going on, to educate themselves on the law and the issues. The good news is that agencies like the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission at the federal level, and the Ohio Civil Rights Commission offer free trainings or low-cost trainings. They offer resources on their website. They call it guidance. And there are other organizations and communities that they can contact that can provide low-cost services or advice. Because it is hard. It is hard for employees and employers because people want to do the right thing. They want to comply with the law, but how do you do that? And some of it can be complicated. And so the good news is that there are a lot of resources. There's an organization called the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, that often people will join and have resources that they can review. So the good news is that there's a lot of information. The best way, though, is not to say they didn't know it, but to get the information, learn about it, and if they are able to consult an attorney. There are law firms that provide pro bono assistance to certain organizations like nonprofits and small employers, and they can look into that as well. The Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association would be a good resource. They're the CMBA, the Bar Association here in Cleveland, can also provide some helpful resources.
Thank you. Because I think that's important both ways. Like, we want to respect everyone, right?
Yeah.
So what are some possible signs that someone may have a legal issue regarding employment?
One issue, I mentioned this earlier, but if someone loses their job or maybe gets disciplined at work and they notice that coworkers who either did the same thing or did not lose their job but were in the same group but look different or have different characteristics from them may not have had the same treatment. That might be one instance where they're thinking, why am I being disciplined, or why did I lose my job when the person next to me who's in my group did something similar but they didn't lose their job. Another example is if someone faces sexual harassment. They're facing harassing conduct by a coworker or even a supervisor, and the employer just isn't taking steps quickly enough or taking steps at all or saying, well, you have to work it out. That is not right. And it's important for people to know if they're in a situation with sexual harassment or other race-based or other types of harassment, it's important to report that immediately and seek legal help if needed.
Yes. I have one small example. I used to work at Punch Bowl Social in the Flats. One of my fellow servers walked past me, like, it was so loud, literally the entire restaurant heard it. He smacked me on my rear end in front of the entire restaurant. I didn't have to say anything. My manager was just like, come here. Come here. Instantly fired. When I tell you, if your company does not rectify the situation that quickly, that day, in that instant, you have a case. Like, you need to seek help because they clearly do not care. And I was so appreciative that I didn't even have to say anything. I truly, truly was.
I'm really glad they took that action so quickly.
I am too. Like, again, if they seem very laxed and just, get over it, or it happens, all those weird phrases that people like to say when they don't want to address something, you need to take it into your own hands and address it with a third party.
Absolutely.
And legal aid is here to help you.
Yes.
How should someone address possible sexual harassment on the job if they, weren't in a situation like mine where they didn't even have to say anything, where they just don't have anyone in their corner, or someone, maybe they just don't know?
A lot of it depends on the individual circumstances. If someone is getting flirtatious comments or someone asked them out on a date and they don't want to do that, they can tell that person to stop. They could do that in writing or verbally. Often it might be better in writing just to make that clear. If they don't feel comfortable doing that, and they may not, they can file a complaint with Human Resources at their job or go to the appropriate person at work who receives those complaints. A lot of companies or organizations now have that information shared at orientation or right when someone starts to say, hey, if you have a situation, this is the person you need to go to, or this is what you can do. And sometimes they have a helpline where someone can call, whether it's anonymous or not, just to say this is going on. Because then they put the employer on notice, and after that, the employer needs to act. Unfortunately, there may be situations where it's necessary to call the police, and that may not be something most people want to do, but if there are threats and these are serious situations that may affect someone's livelihood, it is important to involve law enforcement. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but it may need to happen in certain circumstances.
Yeah, so no one ever wants to call the police, but that's what they're here for, if you need to. So if someone thinks that they are being discriminated against on the job, what things should they do to help prove their case? Like, should they be like writing down every instant in a little notepad? Should they be like keeping some type of paper trail? Should they like get with the security and get the footage? Like, what should they do?
It's really important if someone believes that they're being treated discriminatorily, treated in a way that is against everything they stand for or because of their race or national origin or disability. It's really important for them to figure out the appropriate channels at work to file a complaint. There have been cases that I've seen over the years where people tell me these things happen and I say, well, did you file a complaint? And they said no. And that can be difficult later on if they want to bring a case, because the first thing an investigator will ask is, well, what evidence do you have of the discrimination, or what are the dates? And so at the very least, writing down dates that things happen, on which things happen in a diary or journal or even on their phone, filing a complaint, putting things in writing, because it's really important for people to know that they have done that, and for HR and for the company to know they've done that. Otherwise, they'll just assume that everything's fine.
Thank you. So we're going to shift gears a little bit before our last break. Can you tell us just a little bit about Legal Aid's bankruptcy work?
The focus of Legal Aid's bankruptcy team is on helping our client community achieve financial relief through what we call a fresh start, Chapter 7 bankruptcy filing.
Thank you. Because you also mentioned earlier you don't help with Chapter 13, but you can send people in the right direction.
That is correct.
So how can someone determine which bankruptcy is an option for them, like the best option for them?
The best way to do that, because bankruptcies can be very complicated, is to talk with an attorney. And by the way, our team files hundreds of bankruptcies for clients who may find themselves in situations where they have to stop garnishments from happening, reinstate their driver's licenses that may have been suspended, avoid utility service shutoffs, or to strip those, we were talking about liens earlier, those judgment liens from real estate. That can happen as well, and bankruptcy filings like Chapter 7 can help with that.
Before, you mentioned garnishments. Before someone gets their checks garnished, is there any notice sent out? Because a lot of times I hear people just be like, they took my money. Like, they had no idea they owed someone. So it's like, how do someone know, like, they are on the verge of garnishment?
There should be notice. Unfortunately, what happens sometimes, say someone moves and that judgment is entered against them at their old address, they didn't get it. And these may be default judgments that happen, and if they don't get it, then the other side will say, well, we served it to you. You just didn't receive it. That's not our problem. And it's unfortunate, but often most people will have to get notice of some kind, but many times they may not because of that or other reasons.
So when garnishments begin and you find out, right, you get that first chunk taken out of your check, is there a way to stop them at that point? Or since they have already taken off, is there no way to stop garnishments?
There are ways to stop it. It depends on the circumstances of the case. It's really important if someone sees a garnishment, like say they get a hit to their paycheck, they should call us. Call an attorney, because then an attorney can look into it and figure out what was the case, because that garnishment will be attached to a judgment in most cases. So they need to figure out, well, what happened? Why are you getting this? And where is it coming from? So it's very important for people to contact a lawyer right away.
Thank you. I want to shift gears to the pros and cons of bankruptcy, because throughout this conversation, you said some things pertaining to bankruptcy that didn't make it sound so bad, right? But there are cons to it. So can we just talk about some of the pros of bankruptcy.
Absolutely. There are a lot of pros to filing for bankruptcy. Debtors, so the person who's filing the bankruptcy, they're called a debtor. They owe some debts. They are provided with what's known as an automatic stay that pauses all collection efforts against the debtor, the person who is filing the bankruptcy, as soon as their case is filed. And this stay keeps new lawsuits from being filed as well. They can avoid those garnishments we were talking about and utility service shutoffs and other liens. And bankruptcy really wipes out most unsecured debt that people have from other types of credit cards or other issues, and it gives them the ability to move forward and start to repair the credit. But let me go into some of the cons, right? Because there are pros and cons to this. Bankruptcy is public, so when someone files for bankruptcy, that is a public filing, that can be on someone's credit for up to 10 years. It's important to keep in mind. And a person's credit score before filing for bankruptcy may not be that great, and the case filing will lower it, but the good news is that they have the ability to rebuild their credit after filing it. And that's the purpose of bankruptcy law. That's the purpose of doing this. People often think they don't have access to credit after filing, but they're surprised to know that they're going to be given a lot of credit offers after they're done filing. However, one has to take caution before accepting those offers, right? Because they could have high interest rates, but they still have access to credit.
Predatory lending.
Yes.
That's what they're called.
And it's getting people while they're in this process.
Vulnerable. That's
Right.
when they get you. That's why they are predators, because you are vulnerable and they know that, they recognize that, they take advantage of it. They try to take advantage. Don't let them take advantage.
Another couple more points I wanted to mention with the cons, just to give the information. Debtors, the people filing for bankruptcy, have to wait up to 4 years to secure a mortgage loan after filing for bankruptcy. So they won't be able to do that for 4 years. And then once they file bankruptcy, you can't just keep doing it. It's a period of 8 years that someone has to wait before they can file again. And then while it's an effective tool to help wipe out some debt, it does not wipe out all the debt. There are still some issues or some debts about taxes or criminal fines and penalties or child support obligations that are not wiped out by bankruptcy. And these are called non-dischargeable debts. And they can impact people's ability to move forward. They would have them anyway. And so if they can wipe out the other debt, that can really help them with that fresh start.
Wow. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our voices today, talking all about economic justice and how legal aid is here to help. Don't go anywhere. WOVU 95.9. And after this break, we're definitely going to discuss some of these upcoming clinics and where you can find legal aid society for some advice. Civil advice, that is. We'll be right back.
Stand up, my people. How will we ever know if we were never taught or told to never stop fighting? Don't ever quit just 'cause the rich get richer and the poor don't get.
Many people in our community dream of owning a home. Unfortunately, many also feel that dream is out of reach. However, family, KeyBank is committed to changing that. KeyBank partners with a variety of mortgage programs focused on meeting the needs of borrowers, including offering down payment assistance, affordable and government loans, and solutions for first-time home buyers. A Key Community Mortgage is also a great way to help reach the goal of home ownership. It allows you to take advantage of low down payment options, and qualifying is easier than you might think. It's one more way KeyBank is supporting neighbors and neighborhoods in the communities that they proudly call home. To learn more, visit your local KeyBank branch and speak to a licensed mortgage loan officer. KeyBank and home lending products offered by KeyBank are not FDIC insured or guaranteed. Equal housing lender, NMLS number 399797.
This message has been brought to you by Key Bank and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, Burton Bell Carr, Community Radio.
Hi, this is Bishop Thomas J. Adams of Simply Quartet, and you are listening to WOVU 95.9 FM, the best station in the nation.
It's time to make the short story longer, yeah. Stand for something. Stand up, my people. Stand for something in your life. Stand for something. Stand up, my people.
Welcome back to Our Voices Today, right here on WOVU 95.9 FM, Burtonville Car Community Radio, with your beloved unicorn of the land, DJ Black Unicorn. And look, guys, I have Miss Barbara of Legal Aid Society, and we are talking all things economic justice related. Legal Aid Society is helping in 5 legal areas civilly, and they would love to help you. One will be consumer, and then bankruptcy, tax, work team, like if you're facing any type of discriminatory actions or you need to invoke some, or wealth. So right now, I just want to know a little bit about when someone files for bankruptcy. Is it like automatic that they lose like their house and their car? Because I know before the break you mentioned they're not able to get mortgages until 4 years after, correct?
Right. Well, a bankruptcy filing requires the person to disclose all of their assets, right? Everything they own. And the purpose of that is to make sure that the person filing for bankruptcy is provided with relief from creditors, the people coming after them, only if they don't have so much of this asset value that could be used to pay off their debt, right? So they have assets, but they don't have enough to pay off their debts, right? But the government does not want to wipe anyone out financially. That would make the bankruptcy process unhelpful. And so there's certain basic value in property that can be protected. They do this through what are called exemptions, that for different categories like a home or a car, there's specific protection. For example, the net value, right? The fair market value, what the car or the home is worth minus those debts. We were talking about that earlier with mortgages. As long as that value does not exceed a certain amount, they can keep it. They can keep their home or keep their car. So in Ohio right now, that exemption value for a residence, a home, is about $161,000 and $322,000 if the person's married and jointly owns and files the bankruptcy with someone else. And for a car, it's about $4,400. So that, as long as it's not exceeding that amount, they can keep it.
Okay, so what are the long-term effects of bankruptcy? I know, like we just mentioned, 4 years, you can get a home after that. You mentioned 10 years before they break. Whew. But after that, even while that time, you also mentioned you have the opportunity to still build your credit.
Absolutely, yeah. And so despite some of those limitations, it's a fresh start. It's a fresh start for a reason, because people can go through this process. It may be a very difficult period in their life, but they file it. They have us or another attorney help them with it, and they can move on. One thing I wanted to mention is that the people who file for bankruptcy have to take a close look at what their spending patterns are and what's going on financially, just to make sure that they don't have to do this again, or they can avoid some of the issues that led to filing for bankruptcy in the first place. And some things, like we talked about at the top, are out of control, out of their control, like wages and rising costs. But to the extent they can manage that, it's helpful with this fresh start. Sometimes it's important to know that sometimes employers might take a bankruptcy filing into consideration if they run a background check, or landlords or housing providers, they could take that into consideration, but they can offset any negative connotation that might be associated with that with how they're handling their credit. And they can improve their credit. It might take some time, but they can improve it. And in fact, a lot of people can rebuild their credit entirely and live really productive lives financially after this. So it's a great way to reset, but there is important considerations involved with the timing and making sure it doesn't happen again.
Thank you. Last but not least, on our way out, because we got a few moments here, how do you all at Legal Aid Society walk your clients through the bankruptcy process?
It starts with eligibility. We got to make sure that our clients are eligible for our services, and that's done by our intake team. The next step is for clients to get a questionnaire, a detailed questionnaire, and a list of documents that they have to put together and submit to our team. Once our team receives that information, the client will have a first meeting with our attorneys, and then if they do decide to move forward with the Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the client will complete what's called a credit counseling course. And that's required, as well as meeting again with the team to get the case on file. And as soon as the petition's filed, those garnishments, those charges have to stop because of that automatic stay. It's really important for people to know as soon as they do that, it's like all of that is frozen. And then about 30 to 45 days after the filing, the client and our team or their attorney will meet with someone called a bankruptcy trustee to go over everything. And then that the discharge of the debt happens 60 to 90 days after that point. So it's 30 to 45 days after there's a meeting, and then 60 to 90 days after that. So we're looking at 120 days or so, just a few months. It can be quick.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds quick. Much quicker than I anticipated to hear. Wow.
As long as they fill out the paperwork. That's the key. A lot of times people are hung up on all the paperwork. It's very detailed, but it's for a reason, to make that process on the back end so much quicker.
Yes. I know we get intimidated by the paperwork and the documentation.
That's what we're here for.
Yes, that is why Legal Aid is here. And if you or someone you know may need some help in any of these sectors that we talked about today, there are upcoming brief advice clinics happening each and every Saturday. Well, not every Saturday, but some Saturdays sprinkled in there. July 13th, you can do an intake between the hours of 10 and 11 a.m. at the Cleveland Public Library South Campus. That's 3096 Scranton Road. On July 27th, you also can do intake hour between 10 and 11 at the Food Bank Community Resource Center. That's 15500 South Waterloo Road. And August 17th, which is my mother's birthday. Shout out to you, Angie. Same hour, 10 to 11 at the CPL of Mount Pleasant campus. That's 14,000 Kinsman Road. But if you can't make it to any of those and you missed it or whatever the case may be, you can always visit lasclev.org. That's lasclev.org. You could also give them a call at 888-817-3777. Again, that's 888-817-3777. And for my Spanish people, hola, 216-586-3190. I wish I could tell you those numbers in Spanish, but if you know someone who is primarily Spanish speaking, they can again call 216-586-3190. And you also can do intake online. Is that true?
That's right. Absolutely.
Yay,
come to our website 24/7.
Yes, 24/7. You can go to the website. Again, for those of you who may not know, legal aid services are no cost to the client with low income. No cost. What does that mean? That means that 4-letter word that we love, free. So if you need some free help in the legal avenue, civilly, Legal Aid is here to help you. You can visit lasclev.org for any questions, any intakes. And again, if it's something that they actually do not help with, they will happily point you in the right direction. So reach out. Don't hesitate. Any outgoing messages today, Ms. Barbara, from Legal Aid Society?
Just know that we're here to help, and there's a lot of ways that we can help people with economic justice and their money. So just call us.
Thank you. Make sure you stick around. We got the ATM show coming up next. All things money with Ross. So make sure you stick and stay. Don't go away. WOVU.
Stand for something in your life. Stand up, my people.
iFilm 216 is here to provide you an opportunity to convert those extant skills to use in the media production business with a 1-year below-the-line apprenticeship program. Learn everything you'll need to know to break into the film and television industry. The iFilm 216 program is a workforce development initiative for the film and television industry, helping you gain access to learn all about grip and lighting, camera and sound, set developing and building, even hair and makeup, and so much more. iFilm 216's mission is to empower underserved minorities in the art of cinema, fostering diversity and amplifying marginalized voices to inspire change. This message is brought to you by iFilm216.com and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap.
Hi, this is Deborah Dahlman from the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, and you're listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
We wear them on our sleeves. We pour them out. Hearts are important. And we at Cleveland Clinic put all of ours into your cardiovascular care. From life-saving procedures and research to preventative treatments that keep your heart in top shape. The future of heart care is right here in Ohio. For every test and transplant, for every heart, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Cleveland Clinic.
Brought to you by Cleveland Clinic and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Is your family in need of a new medical provider? Call the Village of Healing Center, the solution for quality Black health care. Cuyahoga County's first and only Black-led and operated medical center. All Black providers caring for Black families. Schedule primary care, chronic disease management, mental health, OBGYN, and pediatric care appointments at 216-815-4325. Offering men, women, and children the quality health care our families deserve. Call the Village of Healing Center today at 216-815-4325. That's 216-815-4325. This message has been brought to you by the Village of Healing Center and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.